Distorted Fate, written by Sylvac. Chapter 9. Name. As the trio left Sugar Cube Corner, the filly could only eye the adults with an eyebrow cocked in curiosity, which was soon sated when she caught sight of the library. Reaching the front door, Pinky knocked on the door with her hoof and waited until Spike opened the door. He greeted Pinky before eyeing both Dayspring and the filly as he asked, "Why are those two here with you, Pinky?"
"This here is Dayspring Joy, and we're here to help get the silly filly a new name,"
Pinky answered with unrestrained excitement. "What's wrong with her old name, and how is being in a library going to help with getting a new one?" Spike asked as he scratched the side of his head in curiosity.
"We really don't know. The filly wouldn't tell us her name, so Dayspring thought that maybe the filly doesn't want to say it for some silly reason, so she decided to ask the filly if she wanted a new name, and she actually said yes, but the silly filly couldn't come up with a name, and I thought maybe Twilight could help us. She did help with the filly's learning of equestrian. Maybe she can help her find a name she would like too."
Spike said, appearing to have lost track of what Pinky was saying as he simply stood aside to let all of them in. Once inside, the filly hopped off Pinky's back before she started bouncing up the stairs, apparently going to get Twilight herself this time. As the filly sat down, she noticed Dayspring coming to her side, sitting down right next to her as she gave the filly a smile in an effort to cheer her up, which was promptly ruined by the filly giving Dayspring a flat stare till her smile faded away. Soon, Pinky returned with Twilight in tow, whose eyes flashed in curiosity as she caught sight of the filly before a scowl crossed her face when Dayspring bowed to her. As Twilight approached the filly spotted Twilight's curiosity and wasn't pleased by it when the filly said,
"I no speak good."
Instantly, the look of disappointment flashed across Twilight's face before it strangely turned into one of excitement.
"I had high hopes that you would learn enough equestrian to have a conversation with her, even though I knew that was statistically impossible, but she has made so much improvement. Assuming she's not just parroting us, I'll be able to finally ask her questions about her native tongue in a few weeks. I need to prepare my schedule for the..."
Twilight started before ducking as a book flew over her head.
"Aha! I was ready for the..."
She continued till a second book successfully struck her in the face. As the book fell to the floor, Twilight glared at the filly as she returned Twilight's glare with a smug smile. All the while, Pinky was on the floor laughing at the sight, while Dayspring was gaping in shock of what the filly had done. After a moment, Dayspring sputtered utter nonsense, drawing the others' attention to her before she composed herself enough to point a hoof at the filly as she said, How dare you hit the princess? If you weren't an orphan, I would have your parrot..."
"It's alright, no harm was done. The filly only did it to stop me from continuing my deductions, though there are nicer ways to do that,"
Twilight said before turning to the filly to give her a disapproving look. "Still, it was inappropriate for anyone to treat you like that, princess. Oh my, I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Dayspring Joy, and I'm a member of Canterlot's Social Services Department," Dayspring said with another bow that resulted in a deep sigh from Twilight.
"Oh, I forgot to teach the silly filly your name, Twilight,"
Pinky said as she jumped into the air in shock before landing in front of the filly. Pointing a hoof at Twilight, Pinky said,
"Name, Twilight, Twilight,"
repeating before the filly finally nodded to let Pinky know that she got the point. Turning to Twilight, Pinky asked,
"So, do you have a super duperific idea on how to help the silly filly get herself a name?"
"I may have one that might help, but it is a far stretch," Twilight said as her horn lit up in that purple aura of hers as several books glowed with the same aura as they were pulled off the shelf before being placed before the filly. Tilting her head in curiosity, she reached out to grab the cover of the book with her hoof. It was only recently that the odd filly had become able to start grasping with her hoofs properly, as both she and Pinky remembered that one incident with a bowl of hot soup and a spoon. Opening the book, instead of just seeing words, the filly saw an illustration of some kind of tree before her. "Name," Twilight simply said as she pointed a hoof at the illustration before using her horn to flip the page to a new image that she pointed her hoof to as she said name again, repeating several times before the filly finally gave her a nod. Understanding the reason she was brought here, the filly began to flip the pages of the book in her search for something interesting to be named after as Twilight turned to the other two ponies to say, All these books contain images of various objects or places in Equestria. Hopefully the filly will find something that she might be interested in being named after. I think she understands my intention, so for now we have to wait for the filly to find something she likes. What was believed to be a feasible solution to the name issue was growing into a massive source of frustration for all the ponies present. As the filly went through each book, she sometimes found a picture that interested her, but once Twilight gave her the name of the picture, the filly just frowned as she found it undesirable to her ears. Even the others were becoming disappointed, with Pinkie Pie's smile fading to a sad frown as she muttered something to herself. All the while, a growing stack of books piled up in the corner until Spy began to return them to their proper places on the shelves. Sighing to herself at the sight of yet another doll picture, the filly turned the page to catch sight of an illustration of what appeared to be the upper atmosphere, where one ends up seeing above the clouds as the sky faded into the emptiness of space. Glancing over her shoulder to see what stopped the filly in her tracks, Twilight spotted the picture as she commented, "Huh? This is an old scientific picture of the theory that above the sky that space was filled with a theoretical element called aether. Though that theory didn't last long when it was discovered that Pegasi couldn't breathe as they made expeditions to the upper atmosphere." Even though the filly couldn't understand what Twilight said to her, her ears did perk up as she heard a word that seemed to perk her interest. Looking at Twilight, she simply parroted, "Aether?" drawing Twilight's attention once again. "Aether? Does that word interest you?" Twilight asked, only to receive a blank stare. Face hooving at her blunder, she said, "Name Aether?" To which the filly finally gave a nod. Tapping a hoof against her chin, Twilight muttered, "While unusual for a name due to it being a concept around science, and it's not uncommon for unicorns to be named after something scientific, I suppose Aether would be a fine name for you." As she smiled at the filly, which caused the filly to finally smile. "So it's settled. The filly will be called Aether, and since Pinkie's gonna be her foster parent, we could call her Aether Pie." Dayspring said, causing Pinkie to give her a wide smile while the filly now named Aether turned her head towards her and gave her a scowl. Seeing Aether's reaction, Dayspring said, Maybe not Aether Pie. How about Aether Cake, since the cakes will also be taking care of her?" Aether gave the scowl again as Pinkie's smile faded a bit as her mane deflated a bit at the filly's rejection of having pie in her name. "Okay, maybe not Aether Cake either. Does she have a problem against Pinkie or the cakes, or—" Twilight pondered out loud as she levitated the cookbook over to Aether. Observing the filly carefully, Twilight saw the filly quickly reject the cookbook the moment she opened it, causing her to suspect that Aether wasn't interested in having food in her name, which is supported when the presence of the cookbook caused Aether to deepen her scowl. "What a relief. I guess she doesn't want to have food in her name. No offense, Pinkie."
"None taken,"
Pinkie exclaimed, glad that Aether's rejection wasn't in any relation to her.
"Still, we can't just name her Aether alone. It seems too short,"
Twilight said, rubbing a hoof against her chin as she looked upon the filly.
"This filly seems to be able to display her desires with ease when she can't say it, which is a bit unusual for a foal. It's like she's somehow projecting her desires like an aura. Wait, how about we name her Aether Aura?"
Twilight proposed as she turned to Aether to say the name to her. Considering the name for just a moment, Aether simply nodded her approval after deciding that it wasn't bad, to which Dayspring lets out a sigh of relief. "Now that we finally have something to call her, I can finish up Aether's paperwork and we can go back to Sugarcube Corner to see if the cakes are willing to take her in as foster parents as well," she said as she levitated her notepad from her bag to write down Aether's name on the paperwork. Grinning in delight, Pinkie suddenly grabbed Aether with her hoofs, hoisting her into the air suddenly, spinning her around as Pinkie yelled into her face,
"You're gonna be part of the family now, Aether, and you have a new name! I can even throw you another party, but wait, I still have to throw you a welcome to Ponyville party and now a welcome to your new family party, and, well, I'll throw you one big super party to celebrate all that! You'll love it!"
However, Pinky's excited spinning rendered Aether dizzy, where the moment Pinky finally placed her down, the filly only took one step before tripping and falling face first onto the floor, much to Spike's amusement as he let out a laugh at the filly's expense. Before Aether could gather her wits, Dayspring announced, "All done with the paperwork. It's time for us to head back to Sugar Cube Corner." Turning to Twilight, she bowed as she said, "Thank you for your assistance, Princess Twilight Sparkle. It was a pleasure to meet you." Before she headed to the front door, as Pinky picked up the dizzy filly and placed her back on her back to allow her to recover from her daze, as well as make sure she didn't decorate Twilight's floor with her breakfast, which Pinky was thinking could end up happening based on how green Aether's face was getting. Waving a goodbye to Twilight, Pinky followed Dayspring back to Sugar Cube Corner so that the case could be given a chance to give their say in regards to the filly's fate. I hope you guys enjoyed this next chapter of The Sorted Fate, and if you did, hit that like button and subscribe. Bye!